Flo, beautiful proverbs, amazing. You will not grow if you sit in a beautiful flower garden, but you will grow if you are sick, if you are in pain, if you experience losses, and if you do not put your head in the sand, but take the pen as a gift to you with a very, very specific purpose. Keep love in your heart. A life without it is like a sunless garden when the flowers are dead. The consciousness of loving and being loved brings a warmth and richness to life that nothing else can bring. When I may, I want it said of me by those who knew me best that I always plucked the thistle and planted a flower where I thought the flower would grow. Think of yourself as a container for wealth. If your container is small and your money is big, what's going to happen? You will lose it. Your container will overflow and the excess money will split out all over the place. You simply cannot have more than the container. Therefore, you must grow to be a big container so you can't only hold more wealth but also attract more wealth. The universe abhors a vacuum, and if you have a very large money container, it will rush in to fill the space. Your attention goes, the energy flows, and results show. A person can make you happy and miserable regardless of what is actually happening outside just by changing the contents of your consciousness. We all know individuals who can transform hopeless situations into challenges to be overcome just through the force of their personalities. This ability to perceive where despite obstacles and setbacks is the quality people most admire in others and justly do. It is probably the most important trait not only for succeeding in life but for enjoying it as well. To develop this trait, one must find what to order consciousness was to control the feelings and thoughts. It is best not to expect shortcuts will do the trick. Of all the virtues we can learn, no trait is more useful, more essential for survival, and more likely to improve the quality of life than the ability to transform adversity into an enjoyable challenge. Man ain't like a dog. When I say man, I'm talking about a man as in mankind, not as in men. Because men, well, a lot like a dog. We like to piss on things, sniff a bitch when we can. Even get a little pink heart of the way they do. We territorial as shit. We know we're gonna protect our own, but man, we know about death. Got some sense of history, got religion. See a dog, man. A dog don't know shit about no birthday or Christmas or Easter Bunny. None of that shit. And one day God gonna come calling. So they're going through life carefree. But people like you and me, man, we always guessing, wondering what if you know what I mean. See what you say to me. Hey, I don't think we should be doing this. I'm gonna say, baby, I don't like what we should be doing this either. But we aren't gonna get on no move on in this world, lying around in the sun, licking grass all day. I mean, we man, I mean you and a woman and all, but we man, we want the sun. Tell me what it is you're gonna do with your life. Everything in the universe has a purpose. Indeed, the invisible intelligence that flows through everything in the purposeful fashion is also flowing through you. Everything is in motion, everything flows, everything is vibrating. The quality of the imagination is to flow and not to freeze. Thoughts give birth to creative force that is neither elemental nor sidereal. Thoughts create a new heaven, a new firmament, a new source of energy from which new arts flow. When a man undertakes to create something, he establishes a new heaven. All things change, nothing is extinguished. There is nothing in the whole world which is permanent, everything flows on, but all things are brought into being by a changing nature. The ages themselves glide by in constant moment. We can have peace of mind, improved health, and an ever-increasing flow of energy. Life can be full of joy and satisfaction. Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be recall. Reality, let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. Everything flows and nothing abides. Everything gives way and nothing stays fixed. Life flows on within and you and without you. As rivers when they overflow, drown the grounds, and ruin those husbandmen which whilst they float calmly betwixt their banks, they fertilize and enrich so our passions, when they grow exuberant and unruly, destroy the virtues of which they may be very serviceable while they keep within their bounds. Skinny men tell me this should just fell out of your pocket, right? I can tell when you're messing with my head because I let you, because sometimes my head needs to be messed up with. But right now, just don't, okay? You want to go with I'm feeling, I'm thrilled, it's okay, I'm thrilled. What woman wouldn't want her husband spending all day in a house full of foes? As rivers, when they overflow, drown those grounds and ruin the husbandmen, which whilst they float calmly betwixt their banks, they fertilize and enrich so over passions when they grow exorbitant and unruly, destroy those virtues to which they are very serviceable by keep within the bounds. To stand at the edge of the sea, the sense of the web, and flow on the tides, the feel of the breath of mist moving over Gate Salt Marsh, to watch the flight of the shorebirds that as rattling down the firm surf lines up of the continent for untold thousands of years, to seeing the running of the old east and the young shad to the sea, is to have knowledge of the things that are as nearly eternal as the earthly life can be. We have to stem the flow of dirty money in Mexico, which has been the main driver of growing violence in the country. There's an outcry from society to weaken the financial structure of organized crime, and that is what it's law about. We believe a good, smart grocery company should consider acquiring Jewel Osco and integrating it into its operation. They have enough cash to write it out that long, but there is a high expectation of default if their profits don't improve. It's a bad business. Other retailers such as Target and Walmart get people in their store by selling food at extremely low profits and make their money when shoppers buy a TV or cosmetics or clothes. Gold fell, but it still win as a hard asset. So in the medium to long term, if you still consider inflation an issue, then eventually you're betting that price is going to go up. Potential interim modification can be made to ensure traffic moves as efficiently as possible as we move towards our final land configuration. Wow. Pain and pleasure occur in consciousness and exist only there. The task is to learn how to enjoy everyday life without diminishing other people's chances to enjoy theirs. We cannot deny the fact of nature, but we should certainly try to improve on them. The self expands through act of self-forgetfulness. It is by being fully involved into every detail of our life, whether good or bad, that we find happiness, not in trying to look for it directly. It is the wise parents that allows their children to give up the things of childhood in their own time. It might be true that it is quality time that counts, but after a certain point, quantity has a bearing on quality. But shortcuts are dangerous. We cannot delude ourselves that knowledge is further along than this actually is. It is better to look suffering straight in the eye, acknowledge and respect its presence, and then get busy as soon as possible, focusing on things we choose to focus on. Repression is not their way to virtue. When people retain themselves out of fear, their lives are by necessity diminished. Only through freely chosen discipline can life be enjoyed and is still kept within the bounds of reason. The essence of socialization is to make people dependent on social controls, to have them respond predictably to rewards as punishments. The last great attempt to free consciousness from the dominion of impulses and social controls was psychoanalysis. As Pre pointed out, the two titans that fought for control over the mind were the id and the superego, the first to servant of genes, the second elector of society, both representing the other. Since the purpose of business is to satisfy existing desires or stimulate new ones, if everyone were genuinely happy, there would be no need for business any longer. The rules themselves are clear enough and within everyone's reach. When many forces, both within ourselves and in the environment, stand the way, itself little like trying to lose weight. Everyone knows what it takes, everyone wants to do it, yet it is next to impossible for so many. Attention is like energy in that without it, no work can be done. And in doing work, it's dissipated. We create ourselves by how you use this energy. Memories, thoughts, and feelings all shaped by how you use it. And it is the energy under control to be with as we please. Hence, attention is our most important tool in the task of improving the quality of experience. It is when we act freely for the sake of the action itself rather than the ulterior motives that we learn to become more than what we were. And when we choose a goal and invest ourselves into the limits of concentration, with whatever we do will be enjoyable. And once we have tested this joy, we will redouble our effect to test it again. This is the way the self grows. It is when we act freely for the sake of action itself rather than for the ulterior motives that we learn to become more than what we are. Were. Man wanders from the cradle to the grave, yet never knows his true self. It is easy to be pleasant when it flows by like a song, but the man worthwhile is the one who will smile when everything goes that's wrong. For the test of the heart is trouble, and it always comes with tears, and the smile that is worth the praises of earth is a smile that shines through the tears. Try to realize it's all within yourself. No one else can take it, make you change, and to see you are only very small, and life flows on within you and without you. There are two sources of curiosity, the momentary and the permanent. Momentary is concerned with your odd appearance on the surface of things. The permanent is attracted by the amazing and constant life that flows on beneath the surface of the things. Seek not that the things will happen, should happen as you wish, but wish that things will which happen to be as they are, as you will have a tranquil flow of life. The moment we begin to fear the opinions of others and hesitate to tell the truth, that is enough. And from motives of policy, silence, when we should speak, the divine floods of light and life no longer flow into our souls. Life does not consist mainly or even largely of facts and happenings. It consists mainly of the storm of the thought that is forever flowing through one's head. God's Spirit is able to flow through us as a minister and teach things. You just never know what God is going to do with the people He has placed in your life. Life and love or life and love. A bunch of violets and a bunch of violets. And to drag in the idea of a point is to ruin everything. Live and let live, love and let love. Flower and fruit and follow the natural curve. Most men ebb and flow. The richest links between the fear of death and the hardship of life. They are unwilling to live, and yet they do not know how to die. Work, labor, the asparagus me of life, the one great sacrament of humanity from which all other things flow. Security, leisure, joy, art, literature, even divinity itself. Love is the immortal flow of energy that nourishes, extends, and preserves. Its eternal goal in life. Some people spend their entire life spreading but never get beyond reading the verse on the page. They don't understand that the words are merely stepping stones placed across a path to interpret, and the reason they are there is so that we can reach the farthest shore. It is the other side that matters. To be religious is to have a life that flows with the presence of the extraordinary. I really feel like life will dictate itself. You should allow it to unfold as naturally as possible. Just go with the flow. When you are really desperate, you say a few prayers and hope for the best. That's the way it's always lived in my life. The energy of the mind is the sense of life. Creator is the natural order of life. Life is energy, pure beauty, energy, inspiration. Deficit disorder is about losing your vitality and purpose, protecting your original source of an potential. It's about the cost of being disconnected and unaware of your own unique talents, needs, and destiny, and merely took the energy it takes to pout and grow some blues. Enthusiasm is the yeast that makes your hope shine into the stars. Enthusiasm is the spark in your eyes and the swing, your gait, the grip of your hand, the irresistible surge of your will and energy to execute your ideas. Energy and persistence conquer all things. Notice what happens when you flow your intuitive feelings. The result is usually increased energy and power and sense of things flowing. Work and play are the same. When you're flowing, following your energy and doing what you want all the time, the distinction between work and play is off. You will recognize your own path when you come upon it, because you will certainly have all the energy and imagination you'll ever need. We all need to look in the dark side of our nature. That's where the energy is, the passion. People are afraid of it because it holds piece of us we are being busy denying. There's a vitality, a life force, and energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, the expression is unique, and if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and be lost. Energy is the power that drives every human being. It is not lost by exertion but maintained by it, for it is the faculty of the sight. See where your own energy wants to go, not where you think it should go. Do something because it feels right, not because it makes sense, because follow the spiritual impulse. All the breaks you need in life wait within your imagination. Imagination is the workshop of your mind, capable of turning mind energy into accomplishment and wealth. Love the moment, and the energy of that moment will spread beyond all boundaries. Just as energy is the basis of life itself and ideas, the source of innovation, so is innovation the vital power, a spark of all human change, improvement, and progress. Art is about energy, positive and negative. All art has the power to heal it because it helps to see who we are and what we resist. One way we can know about the aligned with the life forces God is that if we feel more and more alive, notice what gives you aliveness and what diminishes you, deadens and numbs you, so that you only skim the surface of the life. Begin to say yes to what quickens and energizes, to that which brings joy and gratitude. Surprises are the joy of living. Surprises directly touch the soul. Good surprises energize, and bad surprises teach. Creativity is the mother of all energies, nurture of most alive self. It charges up every part of you. When you plugged in, spontaneous combustion occurs that artists don't have a monopoly on. True joy is that which gives you more energy and gives us feel more alive. Nothing can add more power into your life than concentrating all your energies on a limited set of targets. How much longer will you go on letting your energy sleep? How much longer are you going to stay oblivious of the immensity of yourself? Identify your problems, but give your power and energy to solutions. The higher your energy level, the more efficient your body. The more efficient your body, the better you feel, and the more you will use your talent to produce outstanding results. Being in your element is not only about aptitude, it's about passion, it's about loving what you do, tapping into your natural energy and your most authentic self, right? The energy of your own unique spirit. To change, you must face the dragon of your appetites with animal power, the life energy of the soul, love and another. Love one another and help others to rise to high levels. Simply by pouring out love. Love is an infectious and the greatest healing energy. If you have a goal in life that takes a lot of energy, that requires a lot of work, that incurs a great deal of interest, and that is a challenge to you, you will always look forward to waking up to see what the new day brings. Sustained enthusiasm brings into existence a way of creative energy, and all you have to do is ride the wave. Without passion, you don't have energy. Without energy, you have nothing. Goals provide energy source that power lives, that powers our lives. One of the best ways we can get from most from the energy have is to focus it. That is what goals can do for us, to concentrate our energy. The laws are very simple. Thought is created, feels attract. Fear attracts like energy. Love is all there is. Thought is pure energy. Every thought you have ever had and ever will have is created. The energy of your thought never dies ever. It leaves your being and heads out into the universe, extending forever. A thought is forever. I have come to believe that each of us has a personal calling that is as unique as a fingerprint, and that the best way to succeed is to discover what you love and then find a way to offer it to others in the form of service. Working hard is also allowing the energy of the universe to lead you. Ignoring your passion is like dying a slow death. Passion whispers to you through your feelings, beckons you towards your highest good. Pay attention to what makes you feel energized, connected, stimulated. What gives you your juice. Do what you love, give it back in the form of service, and you'll do more than succeed. You will triumph. Worrying is wasted time. Use the same energy for doing something about whatever worries you. Size matters not. Look at me, judge me by my size. Do you? And well, you should not. For my ally is this force and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow, its energy surrounds us and binds us luminous beings. Are we not this crude matter? You must feel the source around you, here between you and me, the tree, the rock, and everywhere else. Yes. Flow with whatever is happening and let your mind be free. Stay centered by accepting whatever you are doing. This is the ultimate happiness. It's not something that happens. It is not the result of going good fortune or random chance. It's not something that money can buy and power, command. It does not depend on outside events, but rather on how we interpret them. Happiness, in fact, is a condition that must be prepared for, cultivated, and defended privately by each person. People who learn to control inner experience will be able to determine the quality of their lives, which is as close as any of us can come to being happy. Ask yourself, what are you happy? And you cease to be so. The best moment usually occurs when the person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. This is the best of best. The best moments usually occur when the person's body or mind is stretched to its limit in a voluntary effort accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. Getting control of life is never easy and sometimes can be definitely painful, but in the long run, optimal experiences add up to the sense of mastery, or perhaps better, a sense of participation in determining the content of life that comes as close to what is usually meant by happiness as anything else can be conceivably imagine. And develop the theory of optimal experience based on the concept of flow, the state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience itself is so enjoyable that people will it even at great loss for the sheer sake of doing it. Everything we experience, joy or pain, interest or boredom, is represented in the mind as information. If we are able to control this information, we will decide whatever life will be like. The optimal state of inner experience is one in which there is order in consciousness. This happens when psychic energy or attention is invested in realistic goals, and when skills match the opportunities for action. Pursuit of a goal brings an order in awareness, because a person must concentrate attention on the task at hand in the moment, we forget everything else. These periods of struggling to overcome the challenges are what find be the most enjoyable times of their lives. I shall argue that the primary reason is not so it is so difficult to achieve happiness centers on the fact that, contrary to the myth, mankind has developed to reassure itself the universe was not created to answer our needs. Frustration is deeply woven in the fabric of life, and whenever some of our needs are temporarily met, we immediately start wishing for more. With affluence and power come escalating expectations. As our level of wealth and comfort keep increasing, the sense of well-being we hope to achieve is receding into the distance. The problem arises when people are so fixed on what they want to achieve that they cease to derive pleasure from the present. When that happens, they forfeit the chance of contentment. Religion are only temporarily successful attempts to cope with the lack of the meaning in life. They are not permanent answers. To overcome the anxieties and depressions of contemporary life, individuals have the independent of the social environment to the degree that they no longer respond exclusively in terms of its rewards and punishments. To achieve such autonomy, a person has to learn to provide rewards to herself, such as to develop the ability to find enjoyment and purpose regardless of the external circumstances. This challenge is both easier and more difficult than it sounds. Easier because the ability to do so is entirely within each person's hands. Difficult because it requires discipline and perseverance that are relatively rare in any era, and perhaps especially in the present. And before all else, achieving control over experience requires a drastic change in attitude about what is important and what's not. It is important to realize that seeking pleasure is a reflex response built into our genes for the preservation of the species, not for the purpose of our own personal advantage. The pleasure we take in eating is an efficient way to ensure that the body will get the nourishment it needs. The pleasure of sexual intercourse is an equally practical matter for the genes to program the body to reproduce and thereby to ensure the continuity of the genes. At certain times in history, culture has taken it for granted that a person wasn't fully human until he or she learned to master thoughts and feelings. People were held responsible for keeping a tight rein on their emotions. Anyone who indulged in self-pity, who let instinct rather than reflection dictate actions, forfeited the right to be accepted as a member of the community. In other historical periods, such as the one in which we are now living, the ability to control oneself is not held in high self-esteem. People who attain it are thought to be friendly, ridiculous, uptight, and not quite with it. Consciousness has developed the ability to override its genetic instruction and to set its own independent course of action. The mark of a person who is in control of consciousness is the ability to focus attention at will, to be oblivious distractions, to concentrate for as long as it takes to achieve a goal and not longer. The outside even appears in consciousness purely as information without necessarily having a positive or negative value attached to it. It is the self that interprets the raw information in the context of its own interest and determines whether it is harmful or not. There are two main strategies we can adopt to improve the quality of life. The first is try to making external conditions match our goals. The second is to change how we experience external conditions to make them fit goals better. A researcher found that every wealthy person report being happy on the average 77% of the time, which persons of average wealth say they are happy only 62% of the time. The authors report that a person's financial situation is one of the least important factors affecting overall satisfaction with life. And the phenomenology of enjoyment has 8 major components. When people reflect on how it feels when the experience is most positive, they mention that at least one and often all of the following. First, the experience occurs when we confront tasks we have a chance of completing. Second, we must be able to concentrate on what we are doing. Third and fourth, the concentration is usually possible because this task undertaking has clear goals and provides immediate feedback. Fifth, one acts with a deep but effortless involvement that removes from the awareness the worries and frustration of everyday life. 6, enjoyable experience allow people to exercise a sense of control over their actions. 7, concern for all the self disappears, yet paradoxically the sense of the self emerges stronger after the flow experience is over. Finally, the sense of duration of the time is altered. Hours pass by in minutes, and minutes can stretch out to seem like hours. The combination of all these elements causes a sense of the deep enjoyment that is so rewarding. People feel that expending a great deal of one is worthwhile simply to be able to feel it. The challenges of competition can be stimulating and enjoying. But when beating the opponent takes precedence in the mind over performing as well as possible, enjoyment tends to disappear. Competition is enjoyable only when it is the means to perfect one's skills. When it becomes an end in itself, it ceases to be fun. One of the most universal and distinctive features of optimal experience to express people become so involved in what they are doing that the activity becomes spontaneous, almost automatic. They stop being aware of themselves as separate from the actions they are performing. A rock climber explains how it feels when he's scaling a mountain. You're so involved that you are doing, that you aren't thinking of yourself as separate from the immediate activity. You don't see yourself as separate from what you're doing. Enjoyable activities require a complete focusing of attention on the task at hand. There's leaving no room in the mind for irrelevant information. All I can remember is the last 30 seconds, and all I can think ahead is the next 5 minutes. What people enjoy is not the sense of doing or in control, but the sense of exercising control in difficult situations. It's not possible to experience a feeling of control unless one is willing to give up the safety of protective routine. When a person becomes so dependent on the ability to control an enjoyable activity that he cannot pay attention to anything else, when he loses the ultimate control, the freedom to determine the content of consciousness, thus enjoyable activities that totally flow from the potential negative aspects while they are capable of improving the quality of existence, but we ignore it in the mind, they can become addictive at which point the self becomes captive of a certain kind of order and is then unwilling to cope with the ambiguities of life. Loss of self-consciousness does not involve a loss of self, and certain not a loss of consciousness, but rather only a loss of consciousness of the self, which slips below the threshold of awareness in the concept of the self, the information we use to represent to ourselves who we are, and being able to forget temporarily who we are seem to be very enjoyable. When not preoccupied with ourselves, we really have this chance to expand the concept of who we are. Loss of self-consciousness can lead to self-transcendence, to a feeling that the boundaries of our being have been pushed forward. Most enjoyable activities are not natural. They demand an effort that initially one is reluctant to make, but or the interaction and starts to provide feedback to the person's skills, it really means to be intrinsically rewarding. The elders said at times the world becomes too predictable and the challenge began to get out of life. Without challenge, life had no meaning. So the elders in their wisdom would decide that the entire village should move, their moves occurring from 25 to 30 years. The entire population would move to a different part of the Shishwa land, and where they found challenge, and there were new streams to figure out, their new game trails to learn, new areas where the blast some root would be plentiful. Now life would regain its meaning and be worth living. Everyone would feel rejuvenated and healthy. Incidentally, it also allowed exploited resources in one area to recover after years of harvesting. Cultures are defensive constructions against chores designed to reduce the impact of randomness on experience. One of the most ironic paradoxes of our time is this great availability of leisure that somehow fails to be translated into enjoyment. Compared to people living with a few generations ago, we have enormously greater opportunities to have a good time. Yet there is no indication that we actually enjoy life more than our ancestors did. When the non-extinct natives of the Caribbean islands were put to work in its plantations of conquering Spaniards, their lives became so painful and meaningless that they lost interest in survival and eventually ceased responding. It is probably that many cultures disappeared in similar fashion because they were no longer to provide the experience of enjoyment. People who can enjoy themselves in a variety of situations have the ability to screen out stimulation and to focus only on what they decide is relevant for the moment. The family context promoting optimal experience would be described as having 5 characteristics. The first is clarity. Teenagers feel that they know what their parents expect from them. Goals and feedback in the family interaction are ambiguous. The second is centering, or the children's perception that their parents are interested in what they are doing in the present, in their concrete feelings and experiences, rather than preoccupied with whether they will be getting into go to college or obtaining a well-paid job. Next is the issue of choice. Children feel that they have a variety of possibilities from which to choose, including that of breaking parental rules, as long as they are prepared to face the consequences. The fourth disorientating characteristic is commitment, or the trust that allows the child to feel comfortable enough to sit aside the ship of the defenses and become self-consciously involved in whatever he's interested in. And finally, there is a challenge of the parents' dedication to provide increasingly complex opportunities for the action of their children. When adversity threatens to paralyze us, we need to reassert control by finding a new direction in which to invest psychic energy, a direction which lies outside the reach of external forces. When every aspiration is frustrated, a person still must seek a meaningful goal around which to organize the self. Then, even though this person is objectively a slave or subjectively, he is free. What we found was that when people were pursuing leisure activities, they were expensive in terms of the outside resources required. Activities that demanded expensive equipment or electricity or other forms of energy measured in BTUs, such as power boating, driving, or watching television, they were significantly less happy than when involved in an expensive leisure. And people were happiest when they were just talking to one another, when they gardened, or even involved in a hobby. All these activities require few material resources, but they demand a relatively high investment in psychic energy. Peasant women in Eastern Europe were not judged to be ready for marriage unless they had learned to cook different soup for every day of the year. Unless a person knows how to give order to his or her thoughts, attention will be attracted to whatever is most problematic at the moment. It will focus on some real or imaginary pain, on recent grudges or long-term frustration. Entropy is a normal state of consciousness. a condition that is neither useful nor enjoyable, a common trait of many human institutions to begin as a response to some universal problem, until after many generations the problem peculiar to the institution themselves will take precedence over the original goal. A person feels concerned to read a certain book, to follow a given course because that is supposed to be the way of to do it. Learning will go against the grain. But if the decision is to take the same route because of an inner feeling of rightness, the learning will be relatively effortless and enjoyable. Aha! Every hunter-gatherers in Africa and Australia spent only 3 to 4 hours each day on what we would call working, providing for food, shelter, clothing, and tools. They spend the rest of the day in conversation, resting, or dancing. The mystical height of the you are not attained by some superhuman quantum charm or simply by the bright focusing on of attention on the opportunities of action in one's environment, which results in the perfection of a skill that with time becomes so thoroughly automatic as to seem spontaneous and otherworldly. The performances of the great violist or a great mathematician seem equally uncanny, even though they can be explained by the incremental honing of challenges and skills. The more a job inherently resembles a game with variety, appropriate and flexible changes, clear goals, and immediate feedback, the more enjoyable it will, regardless of the worker's level of development. The apathy of many of the people around us is not due to their being physically or mentally exhausted. The problem seems to be more in the modern worker's relation to his job, with the way he perceives his goals in relation to it. Instead of helping us reach our own goals, it is called upon to make someone else's come true. The time channels into such task is perceived time subtracted from the total available for our life. Many people consider their jobs as something they have to do, a burden imposed from the outside, and effort that makes life away from the leisure or its existence. So even though the momentary on-the-job experience may be positive, they tend to discount it because it does not contribute to their long-range goals. Whether a job has variety or not ultimately depends on the person to approach it on actual working conditions. Then on actual working conditions are beautiful. The quality of life depends on two factors: how we experience work and our relation with other people. We also value privacy and often wish to be left alone, yet it frequently turns out that as soon as we begin to grow depressed. The worst moods are reported when one is alone and there is nothing that needs to be done. Worries about one's own love life, health, investment, family, and job are always hovering at the periphery of attention, waiting until there is nothing pressing that demands concentration. As soon as the mind is ready to relax, zap, the potential problems that were waiting in the wings take over. The frequency of murder is much higher among family members than among unrelated people. If a person is unwilling to adjust personal goals when starting a relationship, then a lot of what subsequently happens in that relationship will produce disorder in that person's consciousness, because the novel patterns of interaction will conflict with old patterns of expectation. Unconditional acceptance is especially important to children. If parents threaten to withdraw their love from the child when he fails to measure up, the child's natural playfulness will be gradually replaced by chronic anxiety. Every emotional security may well be one of the conditions that helps develop an autotelic personality in children. Many men wake up to the fact that the family, like any other joint enterprise, needs constant investment of psychic energy to assure its existence. Individuals who survived were physical ordeals, polar explorers wandering alone in the Arctic concentration camp in Meds. One common attitude shared by such people was the implicit belief that the destiny was in their hands. They are not self-centered. Their energy is typically not bent on dominating the environment as much as on finding a way to function within a harmonious state. People who know how to transform stress into enjoyable challenges. spend very little time thinking about themselves. They are not expanding all their energy trying to satisfy what they believe to be their needs or worrying about socially conditioned desire. Instead, their attention is alert, constantly processing information from the surroundings. Achieving this unity with one's surrounding is not only an important component of enjoyable flow experience, but is also a central mechanism for which adversities are conquered. Transformation requires that a person be prepared to perceive unexpected opportunities. If an artist holds on to preconceived notion of what the painting should look like, without responding to the possibilities suggested by the form developing before her, the painting is likely to be dropped. The autotelic self is one that easily translates potential threats into enjoyable challenges and therefore maintains their inner harmony. Without constant attention to feedback, I will soon become detached from the system of action, cease to develop skills, and become less effective. Even the most highly respected physicists, artists, and politicians become a hollow board. As is to enjoy life, if he can interest himself in is his limited role in the universe. Being in control of the mind means that literally anything can happen that can be a source of joy. If we enjoyed work and friendship and faced every challenge as an opportunity to develop new skills, we would be getting rewards out of living that are outside the realm of ordinary life. Yet even that this would not be enough to assure us of optimal experience as long as the enjoyment follows piecemeal from activities not linked one another in a meaningful way. One is still vulnerable to the vigors of chores. Purpose, resolution, and harmony unify life and give it meaning by transforming it into seamless flow of experience. Authentic projects describe the theme of the person who realizes that choices are free and makes a personal decision based on the rational evaluation of his experience. It does not matter about the choices as long as it is the expression of what the person genuinely feels and believes. Inauthentic projects are those a person chooses because everybody else is doing and is therefore is no alternative. Authentic projects tend to be intrinsically motivated, chosen for what they are worth in themselves. Inauthentic ones are motivated by external forces to find purpose in suffering when misinterpreted as a possible challenge. Antonio was so sickly as a child that for years his mother said to have dressed him in the best clothes every evening and let him out to sleep in a coffin, expecting him to be dead by the morning. Attention, focus, energy. Beautiful. Wow. Wonderful, right? We are enjoying it. Absolutely fun. Flow. Beautiful proverbs. Amazing. You will not grow if you sit in a beautiful flower garden, but you will grow if you are sick, if you are in pain, if you experience losses, and if you do not put your head in the sand, but take the pen as a gift to you with a very, very specific purpose. Keep love in your heart. A life without it is like a sunless garden when the flowers are dead. The consciousness of loving and being loved brings the warmth and richness to life that nothing else can bring. When I may, I want it said of me by those who knew me best that I always plucked the thistle and planted a flower where I thought a flower would grow. Think of yourself as a container for wealth. If your container is small and your money is big, what's going to happen? You will lose it. Your container will overflow and the excess money will split out all over the place. You simply cannot have more than the container. Therefore, you must grow to be a big container so you can't only hold more wealth but also attract more wealth. The universe ebbs a vacuum, and if you have a very large money container,